Hi, I'm Elizabeth Campion, one of the Adult Services librarians here at the Shelby Township Library. Throughout the last year, we haven't been able to meet in person at the library other than to just come and pick up books or DVDs or anything like that. So we've been doing make and take craft kits. You can stop by the library at the information desk and request a kit while supplies last. You may already have your kit. If you do, you know that we have inside the kit one wine glass, some paintbrushes, and a little strip of paint. Not everybody has all the same colors, so you may want to think about what colors you got in your craft kit as you design what you want to do with your glass. I will say that these colors, this brand of paint is an enamel that is safe on glassware as long as you very carefully hand wash it. You do not want to paint inside the glass though, and you also want to make sure that when you are painting your glass, you're painting below where your mouth would be on the glass if you were to drink out of it. You don't want to actually have that paint right in your mouth, but you can hold the glass and like I said, it will be washable. So I have two different ideas I'm going to share with you today of what you might want to do with your glass, but this is entirely up to you. Let your imagination run wild and design the best glass that you want to do, what will make you happy. The two designs I have today are spring designs because we're in spring right now. And so we're going to do a tulip and we're also going to do a blossoming tree. So we're going to start our first glass as a spring flower. One of the flowers I always think of when I think of spring is tulips. So we're going to show you how to make a tulip glass. The fun thing about this one is that when you look at the glass like this, you'll see one thing, but then if you go to drink out of it, there's going to be a little surprise inside. I'll show you. What we're going to do is you're going to start with your thinnest brush and get just a little bit of a light color paint, like yellow or orange, maybe gold, something like that. And right around the base of your glass, you're going to make some dots. Just little dots. It doesn't need to be a regular pattern. It doesn't need to be perfect, but you do want to put some dots on there. Just like that. And we're going to let that yellow paint dry for a minute. And so while we're letting that dry, we're going to go ahead and open up our green paint. With a little wider brush, we're going to take a little green on there. And as you'll be able to tell from my hands, I am never one of those really neat painters. So you do you, but I'm always kind of messy. So for the green, you're going to take it and kind of apply it to the stem of your glass like it was the stem of the tulip. Because that yellow is drying, try and stay just a little bit below that yellow or whatever color you used for your dots. And as you put this on, it's going to take a couple of layers. You might see it's a sort of translucent paint, but the more paint you kind of layer on there, the darker it will get. And I'm just going to do a fairly thin layer here today, but you could always go back, let it dry for a little while, and come back and do a little bit of a thicker layer. Whatever you decide you want to do, because this is your project. And then once you get that green on there, you're going to take a little black paint or another dark color. It could be a dark brown. It could be something else that you have that's dark. I'm going to take a little black. And this paint dries fairly quickly, so you can do those other layers fairly quickly. So right now my yellow is pretty much already dry. So I'm going to come along and just make a little ring around where the stem meets the bowl of the glass and cover up those yellow dots. And it doesn't need to be a perfect circle. And it can come about a ½ an inch out from that stem. It can go up a little bit into the green. But the point is really to kind of cover sort of thickly those yellow dots. And the idea then is like the base of a tulip. If you open up a tulip and look inside, those yellow dots will show. So you can see that. All right. Once you get the stem and the inside of your bowl, the bowl part of your glass ready, now you're going to want to add the petals of your tulip. You can take any color. If you think about tulips, we see them in all kinds of colors. I have seen pink and red and yellow and purple and even black. I mean, there's all kinds of colors of tulips. So whatever color you have of paint that you think might work, go for it. I'm going to go ahead and start with a pink. I'm going to take my widest brush. And the fun thing about this one is you're just going to kind of swoop. So like I said, you don't want to get too high up on your glass where a mouth might touch, but about halfway. And you can just take this and kind of swoop it down to just where that black starts. You don't want to get into it too much, but right in there. And then you're going to swoop on the other side. So just kind of like a little angle side there. And like I said, I'm not an artist. This isn't going to be perfect. It's more about having fun and expressing your creativity. And as you can see there, that pink is fairly thin. So you are going to want to probably take just a little bit more and layer that up on there to kind of get that color a little bit. And then once you get one side done, one petal done, you'll come over a little bit and do that next petal. And as you think about a tulip, you think about how those petals are individual but kind of close together. So you can just kind of keep working your way around your wine glass. And you do want to kind of bring it just down to where that black starts, but not right into it. We're just going to keep working our way around this. Now once you get your petals where you're pretty happy with them, you may want to add some definition between your petals. If you think about some tulips, they maybe have more than one color. Maybe they're white down at the bottom and a pink and then a deep, almost red around the edges, something like that. So one thing you can do is add a little bit of extra color to yours. I'm taking my thin brush again. I'm going to take that petal and I'm just going to add just a little bit of a dark pink in between where those are. So you can kind of see on this edge I did it, and then also over here where I've got this other petal, I'm just going to kind of come right at the top and right down in there and then right down that way. And then once you get all that done, you might decide that you want to bring that green back up. So you'll go back and get your green brush. And you didn't want to do this earlier because you didn't want to get into where the pink was going to go, but now you can kind of say, oh, you know, mine's going to have kind of a, just up through here, a little green. Oh, my black is not dry. So you may want to wait till yours dries a little bit more, but you can kind of see that idea that you might bring a little of a leaf right up onto your tulip. And so then it will look like that. I didn't go all the way around on this one, but I think that if you are at home and you're watching this, you can get the idea that you would then just keep going all the way around to make your tulip glass. I'm going to add just a little bit of pink down here at the bottom so you can see that then when it is all done and you would have that inside of the tulip just like you would a flower. Another idea you might consider when you go to paint your wine glass is to make a spring flowering tree. I'm going to show you how to do that one today as well. First of all, you're going to take your wine glass and then you're going to start with the trunk of your tree. Looking at your colors available, you might want a dark brown, you might want a little black. You can even mix colors a little bit if that is what you feel that you would like to do to kind of give more of a tree-like feel. As I showed you in the first part, the paint is hard to get on very thick. It goes on rather translucently. One thing I have found for the tree trunk, which also makes it look a little bit more like bark, is to sort of dab that on. So I'm going to start with some brown paint here. I'm going to get it fairly thick on my brush. And then as I pick up my glass, I'm going to just kind of dab it on my stem of my wine glass. That's going to make it look a little bit textured, like tree bark. And it also helps get that on there thick enough that it really looks more like a tree. So we're going to do that. And you can bring that down a little bit onto the base of your glass if you like that idea. One thing that I've done, I know we're working on a spring glass today, but if you wanted to do a fall glass, you could then also put some little fall, autumn leaves down at the base of your tree with some like orange or gold or yellow paint, a little red, something like that, some autumn colors. For today though, we're going to focus on spring. All right, so once you get that tree trunk, it's going to look like that. Once you get the very trunk of your tree done, you're going to want to put some branches on your glass. You're going to get some more brown paint. One thing to think about when you are painting your glass is to think about what a real tree looks like. It has branches that are thicker at the bottom and then taper and get thinner at the top. So you're going to start with your brush at its widest point right at the bottom, kind of bring that up a bit, and then give it a little angle. And as you angle with your brush, you can kind of turn it so it does a little swoop. That'll help it get thinner. And then as you can see there, you're definitely going to want to go back over that paint and get that a little bit thicker on there. And because mine got kind of wide at the bottom, I'm going to go ahead and use that to then start another branch over on the other side. I'm just going to keep filling those in a little bit. And every time maybe your brush slips a little bit, it kind of turns in a direction you didn't plan for it, you can use that to start another branch. I'm seeing here, I got mine a little bit high up. You're going to want to make sure, like I said, you don't want it where your mouth's going to go, so you want to wipe that back down, which is what I'm doing right there. I just wipe that a little bit lower because I don't want that where somebody might drink and get some of that paint. And again, I'm just going to keep going over this to get that branch nice and dark and thick. And add another little branch there. And fill that in a little bit more. And again, you can put that paint on so it's sort of textured just like the bottom of your tree trunk. So it's going to look a little bit more like that. I'm just going to add one more branch in over here. So that I get a lot of nice thick branches coming off my tree. Okay. So it's going to look kind of like the general idea there, like that. So once you get some branches that you're pretty happy with, you can think about adding leaves and flowers. One thing I just want to mention about the branches, or really any part of this, is while it's still wet, you can wipe it off with a paper towel and then start again. So if you're not happy with what you're doing, do it again. This is your project, so you should really take time and enjoy it and be happy with the results. So in order to make this kind of look like a spring tree, it needs just a few budding leaves. So we're going to start with just a little bit of green. And we're going to go to where some of those branches are. And we're just going to start adding a little bit of green. Given the type of paint and the type of brushes, and for me at least, the artistic level, I would definitely say as you're approaching this, think more impressionist than realist. And just dab that green right on there wherever you feel some leaves are just starting to form. You can have lots of leaves, it can be late spring, you can have just a few. But it doesn't need to be overwhelming, and they don't need to look exactly like leaves to convey a very clear idea of what you've painted. So once you get some leaves on there and you think that makes me think of early spring, that makes me think of trees just starting to let those leaves out. Another thing to think about, so many wonderful trees in spring have little flowers. So now you can go along and add some flowers to your tree. I find it looks kind of more natural if you put that flower right next to the leaf. And I'm using pink here, but again, any color that speaks to you of flowers that makes you think of particularly spring, but anything else is fine to use. So a little pink on all my leaves here. And again, we're not really going for realism, we're just going for the feel of spring. You see this and you imagine sunshine, you imagine the world getting warmer again, but it doesn't need to look exactly like a flowering dogwood or a cherry tree or anything like that. Just kind of evoking that idea. And we'll just keep adding a little pink to those leaves. And you may see again I'm using my thinnest brush to do things like the leaves and the flowers. I'll just add a couple more flowers up here. And as you've noticed, I've done one side of the glass here. If you want to do the whole glass for your glass, you'll let that dry and then do that other side. If you try and do it all at once, it kind of gets messy. So just recommend that. And then you will have your painted glass. The library would love to see what you do with your glass and supplies. Send us a picture through our email address or through Instagram or Facebook, because we would love to see what Shelby residents are doing with their kits.